Can eating more help with binge eating disorder? I'm recording this in August 2022, and the last time I recorded a video for this channel would have been February, so it's been about 6 months, so I'm a little bit rusty. Back in February 2022, around the time that I stopped doing videos, I was getting ready for surgery. I had surgery to remove the loose skin from my chest and abdomen from when I lost weight. And, the details of that and the preparation and how it went and, that whole thing I will be covering in future videos. If you have any questions, you can ask me, but I will have other videos up soon, hopefully, covering that. Anyways, because it was for loose skin, I wanted to try and go into the surgery as lean as possible so I could kind of almost like maximize my results. So I was following a fairly strict diet for 4 or 5 weeks before I had the surgery. I was trying to go fairly low on calories, so like 1800, 1900 calories a day. And that actually made my binge eating disorder worse. I was much more prone to binging, and if I went slightly over, then I was going way over. And as far as mentioning, I wasn't told to go on a super strict diet or anything like that. It wasn't a requirement for surgery. It was my own thing that I wanted to try and be as lean as possible going into it. Anyways, my binge eating disorder got worse before my surgery because I was trying to follow the super strict diet. I didn't have any huge blow up binges, but I was kind of more and more prone to it. And it was more regular than it had been, for a while before that. And then afterwards during recovery, and again, the recovery process I'll cover in future content as well. But afterwards during recovery, my appetite just kind of wasn't there for 5-6 weeks, and I wasn't able to exercise or move that much either. When you have been through something like surgery, it is important that you give your body the nutrition it needs to fully recover. So I was kind of having to force myself to eat a little bit, which is a fairly bizarre experience because that's not really something I've ever had an issue with before. But because of that, binge eating disorder wasn't really an issue because I wasn't really in the mood to eat generally anyways. And as my recovery progressed and I started to resume sort of normal activity and I was walking more and started exercising a little bit more as well, my appetite did gradually start to return. Because I thought I would have gained weight from not exercising, I was trying to be super strict and follow a strict diet again. And that made me prone to occasional binges again. Not hugely consistent, but more regular than what I had gotten used to sort of towards the end of 2021. And none of my binges were particularly massive. Well, for me, they weren't particularly massive. I think the biggest one was probably about 3,500 calories, and maybe that was once or twice. Generally, though, they kind of peaked at sort of 2,700, 2,800 calories, which for a lot of people, that's just a normal day's eating. But for the diet I was on and the behavior pattern I kind of went to, when I went over my calories, would probably classify as binge eating behavior. But because I was exercising and I was active again, and the binges weren't that high in calories to cause a substantial amount of weight gain, I don't think I would have gained much fat. I mean, as far as I can tell, I don't think I gained any fat during that period. It's difficult to be 100% sure because I was still very swollen after the surgery, but the way my clothes fit is kind of my benchmark, and that didn't really seem to have changed much. But I did lose some weight, and that was mainly muscle tissue. That was a lot of strength that I lost just from not really strength training or lifting weights or exercising in that way for a while. And it's a very uncomfortable truth for most people that have spent most of their life trying to lose weight, is that to try and gain weight or to gain strength or to gain muscle, you actually do need to eat a bit more. It doesn't have to mean like an out and out weight gaining bulk or anything like that, but it does mean needing to fuel yourself properly so that your muscles adapt, so that you build strength, so that your muscle tissue actually grows and develops. My past experience of trying to gain weight, I always hated the idea. It's always made me cringe. I've always felt nauseated. Every time I've tried it, I've had like very short bursts of success and then very quickly hated it and then very quickly went back to trying to lose weight. But at the same time, having been like regularly exercising for years now, I felt like I had a fairly decent strength and fitness base considering my exercise experience and considering my relationship with food. It took me years to get to that, and I really didn't want to give that up. So there was a bit of remorse, regret, something like that, just around sort of the strength I had lost. And that kind of was enough to convince me to start increasing my calories very gradually. And I was only doing it as long as I was consistent with my training and as long as my strength was increasing as well. So I started from a benchmark of around 2,000 calories. I increased to around 2,200, which is quite a big jump in that it's 10% increase in calories. But I know for my weight, for my activity level, generally 22, 23, 2,400 is around maintenance level. So I knew I had a little bit of wiggle room to play with. So I settled in at 2,200 calories, and then I was being consistent and making progress. I gradually increased it to 24, and then to 25, and then to 2,600. The sort of daily calorie target, which I haven't really tried since my last attempt at a bulk, which was 2018. So we're in alien territory here. I've been through feelings of guilt and just general awkwardness and discomfort at the amount I felt like I was eating. And it took a little while to get over that. But as my performance improved and as my strength increased and the weights I was lifting increased, and the way my clothes fit didn't really change, I felt a lot more calm and a lot more settled, and just decided, I'm just going to take it gradually. 2,600 seems like about the right level for me, so I'm just going to stick to that for a little while longer. In terms of performance, I had stopped lifting weights when COVID hit, so in first lockdown, so this was March 2020. And now after about 3-4 months in the gym, lifting weights consistently, I am back to about 90% of what I was lifting before COVID. I mean, for, having not lifted for nearly 2.5 years and, while still not 100% in terms of, physical recovery, I'd say that's pretty good progress. And the thing is that since I increased my calories, the thought of binge eating hasn't even crossed my mind once. I'm eating more, I'm feeling myself better, I'm better nourished, and I'm feeling fuller. And there's purpose to my training and to my nutrition. And I guess there's kind of a positive perspective in that you're doing this from a point of view of growth and development. So I'm not approaching it from the point of view of like with weight loss, you feel like you're overweight, so there's a flaw in you that you need to fix. It's a very different mindset to this. And it's a much more positive mindset. So yeah, like when you feel like you're trying to develop and improve and you feel fulfilled. It's something that I haven't really felt with training and nutrition for a long time. So in my case, eating more and finding purpose and feeling fulfilled around my training and nutrition and just generally sort of like managing my health and the condition of my body, it seems to have helped me manage binge eating disorder and the idea of binge eating a lot better as well. It is still something I need to be mindful of, but because I see a goal, I see a purpose, that's kind of helping me to like not really feel any desire to binge. And also, I guess because I'm eating more and feeling fuller, in moments of stress or when I'm feeling emotional or when I feel like a binge might normally have otherwise been triggered, food isn't really coming into my thoughts. I'm not really turning to food when I feel like I need to sort of sedate or manage my emotions. I'll be honest, I haven't replaced it with the healthier habit. I now just sort of like mindlessly scroll travel posts on Instagram. So I've turned away from food. I haven't necessarily replaced it with an overall better habit for me. But in terms of managing binge eating disorder, it's not going to have the same impact on my physical health. So can eating more help with binge eating disorder? I think it's important to note that when I say eating more, I mean sort of on a general day-to-day basis, making sure that you're feeling full, making sure that your body's getting the fuel it needs, making sure that you're feeling nourished. If you're taking those boxes and you're finding a purpose to what you're doing, then like in my case, yes, it definitely can help. I think just, that sense of fulfillment, that sense of purpose, I guess it kind of broke the link I had between my emotions and my relationship with food. Food was already serving a purpose and it was giving me a sort of positive emotional response. I'm not a psychologist, by the way. I'm just kind of thinking this through of what I think probably happened. But yeah, food was giving me a positive emotional response because it was tied in with my training and I'm getting stronger and building some muscle tissue again. So under the circumstances, I would normally have a binge triggered, like when I'm feeling stressed or emotional, or feel like I'm messing up on my diet, or feel like I've done something wrong, and all the kind of things that normally trigger it for me. I'm not turning to food, I'm turning to something else. Like I said, I haven't replaced it with a better habit. I've replaced it with something that's probably more impactful negatively on my mental health. And yes, that is something I'm working on. I'm trying to find better ways to manage my emotions, and that I'll admit to that. So yeah, eating more can definitely help. And for now, at least, it seems very much to have helped me as well. In terms of if it can help you, like I said, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not really qualified to give you specific advice, but here are my thoughts. I think number one, it does depend on your relationship with food. If you have a very heavy emotional reliance on food or have a very, very strong emotional link with food, then there's a good chance that even if you are eating more throughout the day, when you are feeling emotional or distressed for any reason, you may be more likely to turn to food. If I wasn't able to sort of find a purpose to my training and find a really solid goal and kind of use that to change my relationship with food, there's a good chance that eating more wouldn't work for me either. But because I'm nourishing my body and I'm looking after its needs in a way that I guess I haven't done in a very long time, or maybe even properly ever before, I'm not really drawn to food as much. If your binge eating disorder is coming from another source, so it's nothing to do with your relationship with your body or your relationship with food, it might not work. If it's coming from another emotional source, then the amount that you eat throughout the day is not as likely to have an impact on what your behavior is under the circumstances where you normally feel a binge being triggered. Those are kind of my thoughts around if eating more can help. If you can use it to change your relationship with food and find purpose to your training, then yes, it probably could. If it's something else going on, then it's less likely to. But like I said, this is the third time I'm saying it, I'm not a qualified professional. Binge eating disorder is a mental health condition. If you suspect you have, or are struggling with or battling with binge eating disorder, please do speak to a professional. If for any reason you can't speak to a professional or don't feel comfortable approaching a professional, then yeah, I guess you can try listening to your body's needs a bit more, nourishing a bit better, and see if that helps. And that can be something really small, like just a piece of fruit or a few more vegetables. And see how that impacts on your body and your mood and your emotions when you next feel a binge being triggered. But for the fourth time, I'm not a professional. If you need specific advice on binge eating disorder, please do speak to a registered dietitian, please do speak to a medical professional, please do speak to a therapist or a psychologist or someone that can get you the help you need. If you're not sure where to look, please do feel free to leave a comment or feel free to message me, and I will try and point you in the right direction for getting help.